Hello, Helen here. Welcome to my channel. Today's card, I got some inspiration on Pinterest with some vintage blue rose fabrics and wallpapers, and I thought I'd use this Altenew set called Dainty Bouquets to make that. I'm starting off with my usual card base size, which is a 5" by 7", and I've also got a piece of the same card, just slightly bigger than the front of the card, which will become my front panel. Now this time I'm using linen card, and I'm going to be using the reverse side, which is the smoother side, and it just gives the end product just a slight sort of fabric look, which I really like. I'm going to be using the Misty today to do the stamping, although you can use an acrylic block, and the three colours I'm using for the Altenew Crisp Ink cubes is Caribbean Sky, Russian Blue and Sapphire. I'm going to start off by doing one of the stamps. I'm going to skip out a lot of the inking and cleaning the stamps and swapping the stamps over because it just gets a little bit boring, and I'll just show you the layers of the stamping that I'm doing. It's quite repetitive, so I'll only show you parts of that. So I start off with the first main flower. The main stamp that I'm doing in the lightest of the blues is a really big stamp, so I'll do that and then do all the smaller parts with the second and third layer. All the layers are fairly easy to line up. This is one of the easier of the layered stamp sets that Altenew do to line up, so I've just gone ahead and done the leaves. The second layer, when you do the flower and the leaves, they cross over, so you really need to do them as two different steps, otherwise they just get in the way of each other, but it's fairly easy to line up and do the stamping of the second and third layer. It always gives me a real thrill when I do the very last layer of these layering stamps. It's just amazing how the little bits of the darkest colour really brings the whole image to life. That's why I like the layer stamps. I think they're just so beautiful, the way it all comes together. One thing I like about this stamp set is the bottom layer of the bouquet, the way it's been shaped, you know, in the design, it fits together beautifully. They each interlock with each other so that you can do a really full background with a stamp. It just looks great and it's very clever. Now I'm going to put some music on and leave you listening to that while I stamp the rest of the card with all the layers, and I'll come back to you when I'm ready to do the sentiment. Because the all over pattern is pretty full on, I'm going to keep the sentiment really simple. I've just got a piece of vellum, a strip, and I'm just going to stamp with black ink and clear embossing powder and leave that as is, just wrapped around the front card panel. I use VersaFine Onyx black ink and clear embossing powder, but what I think I should have done is use a different ink, a more pigment ink, I think, because it ended up coming out quite sort of grey rather than a nice crisp black. I think next time I'd try the Memento Tuxedo black ink that I've got and see whether that was any better on the vellum. I'm doing a Mother's card, so that a Mother's Day sentiment here. It's the only Mother's Day sentiment that I have, but you could really do any sentiment you chose with a background like this. It could really be any occasion. To put the sentiment on, I'm just going to bend the vellum around the left hand side of the front panel, which is going to go along my fold line of my card base, and stick that down with some double-sided tape. And then I'll just put some double-sided tape on the card base and just put that left hand edge all the way down the fold line of the card base, stick that down, and then I'll turn the card over and trim right around it, so that it all matches the card base, because I made the front panel a little bit bigger, making sure that I keep the vellum sentiment out of the way when I'm doing the cutting. And then I'll be able to stick the other edge of the vellum underneath the right hand edge of the front panel, and then stick that right down onto the card base, and that's the panel, the vellum panel, put onto the card. The final thing I'm going to do is just scatter a few pretty pink posh clear sparkling sequins in 2 different sizes around, just on the sentiment and just above the sentiment, just to give the card a little bit of a sparkle. Now I'm going to show you what I do to do inserts for my cards. I've shown it a couple of times on previous videos, but I'll show you again. I keep it very simple. All I do is pick an A4 sized sheet of paper in a colour that's going to go with the card, and I fold it in half, and then I place it inside the card about 5mm down from the top along the fold line, so fold lines to fold line, and close it and draw around the other 2 sides, and then I'll trim those 2 excess parts with a craft knife and metal ruler about 5mm inside of that, the lines I've just drawn, and that makes the insert just that little bit smaller than the card, so that when you're opening and shutting the card you don't actually see the insert until you've opened the card up properly. I'll stick some double-sided tape down on the top fold line and place that into the card, making sure that I've got the insert evenly placed on the inside of the card. Take the backing off and stick it down, and that way if you put the double-sided tape on the top of the insert, then when you open the card it automatically opens with the card, and that just gives the person that's giving the card somewhere to write a message. I'll leave you looking at some photos of close-ups of the card. At the end of the video I'll have a couple of other videos you might be interested in. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.